Hello friends, and welcome to Gardening with Creekside. If you want a garden that simply gets better from year to year, then these are the top 10 perennials that I would recommend that you add to your garden because they have proven themselves to be magnificent perennials here at Creekside Nursery. All right, my friends, so I hope you are nice and warm and cozy wherever it is that you may find yourself today. Go ahead and either you're going to take some screenshots, or if you're a handwritten note kind of girl or guy, I want you to get your gardening journal and jot down these 10 perennials that I would highly recommend that you add to your garden because they are going to give us year-round interest in the garden. That is right, your perennials can give you year-round interest. And the best thing about perennials, remember, perennials are those plants that come back year after year. So you're not having to replant them every single spring or summer. Now, these 10 perennials that I am going to be sharing with you today, they are a mix. Some of them are sun, some of them are shade. A lot of them are native. A lot of them are deer resistant, rabbit resistant. So I really think, and we cover a wide range of growing zones. They are in no particular order, but these are the perennials. Again, I have them in my garden and I absolutely love them. And I've always figured if it works in my garden and I am happy with it, odds are there's going to be the same kind of story in your garden as well. So forgive me, I do have my phone because all of my information is on my phone. So let's get started. To kick-start our list of the top 10 perennials that I would recommend you add to your garden is Delosperma. Now, Delosperma is also known as an ice plant. Flash mob electric slide is, y'all, it gets its name for a reason. This fantastic evergreen ground cover that is hardy in zones 5 to 10 is going to give you large, bright fuchsia pink blooms that are long lasting. This is going to have a nice long blooming season. Basically, it's going to start in early spring and it's going to go all the way into summer. Ice plant is a really cool succulent type plant that is only going to get 2 to 4 inches tall, but it can spread up to 2 feet. I have Delosperma on the steps up to the chicken coop, and it is a beautiful evergreen ground cover that gives those big, huge pops of color. Now, this is going to be for your full sun. If you don't get your full sun, you're not going to get the bloom power. This is very high heat and drought tolerant because it has those sedum-like leaves. It does not require a lot of water. For my folks who have wet winters, then I would recommend that you really pay attention where you plant your flash mob electric slide in those areas in the wintertime because it needs to be a very well draining spot. Hence why a hillside is great. While it does need some water like all plants do, it does not like to have wet feet, especially in the winter. It is also deer resistant. So if you're looking for a great ground cover that is going to give you big, beautiful electric fuchsia blooms, then you got to check out Electra Slide. That is so cool. Next, for my shade garden, we have Pulmonaria. So Pulmonaria Pinkablu is one of my top favorite Pulmonarias because it just kind of checks all of the boxes for your shade garden. So your Pinkablu is going to be hardy in zones 3 to 9, so very, very widely adaptable in all of our growing zones. This is a shade plant, especially when you get into those warmer zones. Now, if you're in a zone 3, 4, 5, maybe even a 6, you probably could get away with a bit more sun. When you're going to 7, 8, 9, definitely needs to have that shade. But what is so cool about Pinkablu is, as its name suggests, in the very early spring, it is going to put forth these stems with flowers. Those flowers are going to start out a beautiful pink, and then they're going to turn to blue. So on the same plant, you're going to have pinks and blues together. Now, it does bloom very early in the spring, and after it blooms, it's a one-time bloomer, but you're going to absolutely love it. The bees love it, especially your honeybees in the early spring. This is a great way to support your honeybees in early spring because that's going to be one of the first sources of food for them. But it does give us those beautiful speckled foliage throughout the entire growing season. And for me, where I am in North Carolina, a zone 8A, it is actually going to be an evergreen for me. If I have a super, super cold January, February, I might lose some of that foliage, but it bursts forth with that great foliage in the spring. So definitely in zones like 9, you could absolutely have this as an evergreen. Now this is going to be a low growing perennial. It is going to go in the kind of in the front of your border, because it is going to be about, even with the blooms, it's going to be underneath like a foot, right? So it's going to be kind of short, but it does get wide. It is deer and rabbit resistant because it has a very fuzzy texture to the leaf. It has little hairs all over it, and the deer tend not to like those plants that have that texture to it. And it has, like I said, throughout the entire growing season, you have got this beautiful foliage that is green with these white specks on it. It is a great mounding habit for that front of your border in that shade to part shade garden. So Pinka Blue Pulmonaria is a great, beautiful shade option that is going to give you lots of interest in your garden. Now, kind of staying in that shade garden, one of my absolute rock star plants, and this is why we added it to the Creekside Champion line, is Brilliance Autumn Fern. Brilliance Autumn Fern is just, if you're new to gardening, or you have a dry shade garden, or you have a shade garden and you're looking for year-round entrance, Brilliance Autumn Fern is going to be one of my absolute top suggestions for you because it is an evergreen fern. It is going to give you height in your garden. Basically, it's going to be like a 2x2. It gets its name Brilliance because the new foliage emerges this kind of a rusty orange copper color, and as it matures, it turns to green. They have these nice wide fronds on them. The leaves are nice and wide, so you get lots of good structure to it, a very upright habit to it, and it is deer and rabbit resistant. It is the lowest maintenance plant for your shade garden. But it is going to be for that shade to part shade, and it's just going to be super easy in zones at 5 to 9. You're going to prune it one time a year coming out of winter going into spring. You're going to cut all of the previous year's growth off of it as that new growth emerges, and you're going to love it. So for a shade garden, this is Brilliance Autumn Fern. It is definitely a Creekside champion. I adore this plant. Highly, highly recommend that you have it in your garden as well. And then, y'all, this has been one of the fastest selling perennials in the Creekside Champion line since we launched it just, I don't know, 6 weeks ago. This is a Flock of Flamingos Penstemon. And Flock of Flamingos is the coolest plant. So as penstemons, so let's just kind of run through the penstemons first and explain what they are. So these are going to be hardy in zones at 6 to 9, full sun, right? And then the Flock of Flamingos has shrimp pink blooms that will then fade to a nice soft pink. Very upright habit to it. It is a long blooming perennial. It attracts your bees and your butterflies and your hummingbirds. They adore this plant. Like I said, very strong upright form, so it's going to bring a nice different kind of texture, height to your garden, those layers to your garden. And it is going to be, without the flowers, it'll be about 14 inches tall. With the flowers, at about 36 inches tall. So when it has those, when it's in bloom with those flower spikes, you're going to get a nice height to it. It is also a native plant to North America, and it is deer and rabbit resistant. But you want to talk about a punch of color in the garden. then this flock of flamingos is definitely going to be a great choice for you. Again, it has been a rapid seller. We've had to restock it a couple of times, but I know that you are going to love this beautiful native perennial that is deer and rabbit resistant, that's going to attract all of the good things to your garden. Then next, yet another native perennial. Now there's actually two in this one, so you get a 2 for 1. You get to choose your color on this one. The totally stoked stokes asters. So this is going to be a relatively new perennial from our friends at Proven Winners. Within the last year or two, this has come out. So you get 2 colors. You can have Riptide, which is a nice blue, purple, lavender, depends on how you see colors, or you can have White Caps, which is a white. So the difference between the two is basically the colors, and that is just as simple as that. I personally have both of them in the garden because they are fabulous. Now, these totally stoked asters are going to be hardy in zones 5 to 9. They are a full sun garden. They are going to be about 2 feet tall, and that is with your flower spikes. They are going to attract the bees and the butterflies. They are deer and rabbit resistant. They are native to North America. They have a very strong heat tolerance. This is why they do so well here in the South. And they're great for any of those hot climates. Then these are going to be great ones for you. It's going to bloom from about mid-summer into fall if you deadhead. So mine last year, I have them in the cottage garden, I have them a couple of places. They were blooming, for me, because I am a zone 8, they were blooming a little bit earlier. Obviously, if you're in a zone 8 and 9, they're going to bloom before our zones in, 5, 6, and 7. So when I give you these timelines on the blooming, it could vary for where you are. But just think of that mid-garden, mid-season blooms, right? So we love these because they have these really unique blooms on them. They're almost like a pincushion, right? So they are very full and kind of like fuzzy and popping forth of all of this color. They respond really well from being deadheaded. So if you will deadhead them, you get your first flush of flowers, right? Once the flowers are spent and they're done, cut the flowers off. Then they're going to reflush and they will rebloom later on in the season. Here in North Carolina, because we've already had multiple really cold nights, I still have a great mound of that evergreen foliage. So you're going to have that color and texture in your garden, even when in the dead of winter, you're still going to know where the plant is. It's not going to completely disappear, say like a hosta will. So the totally stoked asters, both the Riptide and the White Caps, I would really encourage you to put this in that full sun garden that is like, you don't want to fuss over it. This is the plant. Other than deadheading them 1 or 2 times a year, you're going to love these native perennials that give you those beautiful blue and white flowers, depending on the cultivar that you get. Now, Monarda. I think most gardeners are familiar with Monarda or bee balm, right? Another great native perennial, but sometimes the older varieties can get a little big. I adore the upscale red velvet. Comes in lots of different colors, but the red velvet is that classic bee balm Monarda color. Hardy in zones 4 to 8. Full to part sun, and the great thing about the red velvet, it is shorter in stature. So you get all of the fantastic characteristics that we love about Monarda, but it's a little bit shorter, it's a little bit more manageable. When it blooms, it will be 32 inches tall and it has a nice wide habit. It can spread up to about 4 feet. And so you're going to have this slow creep. It is not invasive at all, but it will spread and give you a nice big clump. We love Monarda because it attracts all the bees, all the butterflies, all the hummingbirds. They love this plant, especially with that red color. It is super vibrant and they come right to it. It is deer resistant. It is that native plant, and then it handles damp soil really well. So if you have an area that stays historically wet or damp, then Monarda is going to be a great one for you. It is going to really naturalize quite well. And we have found that with that upscale series that it's less susceptible to powdery mildew, right? So especially if you can have it in that area where it gets that consistent water, it's less stress on the plant, and it performs really well and does not get the powdery mildew. So if you're looking for a bright, big pop of color that attracts all the little fun critters to your garden, but not the deer, then you got to try red velvet. It is a fantastic plant for sure. Now, let's think about a little bit later on in the season, right? We want some color, we want some pop, we want some really great cut flowers. Well, Little Henry rudbeckia has been added to the Creekside Champions line because this plant has been around for quite a while, and it is an absolute golden gem in the garden. And it literally is golden, that's right, because Little Henry is going to be hardy in zones 4 to 8. It is in the full sun, and it does have those bright yellow golden flowers on it. It is going to be about 3 feet tall, 2 feet wide. So it's going to be quite manageable for if you have a bit of a smaller garden, if you have a small confined space where you want to have that height for a rudbeckia, but you can't have anything crazy tall, then Little Henry is going to be a great option for you. It's going to bloom somewhere beginning around July through October, so towards the mid to the end of the growing season for us. It does make a fantastic cut flower. Like I said, it has that nice compact habit. It is deer resistant, and yet again, it is native to North America. That is the thing that we are hearing more and more and more from our customers and from our viewers. They need the deer and rabbit resistant plants, and they really love the native plants to North America. So when we say that they're native, I am referring it to North America, the United States, because all plants are native somewhere, but these are native to North America. So Little Henry rudbeckia is going to give you that really nice pop of color and support those pollinators later on in the season in a more compact habit, and really kind of a unique bloom on it as well. So check out Little Henry. Next, if you've been around me, you know that I love Baptisia. Baptisia is a very long-lived perennial. I tell people, when you purchase a Baptisia and you're trying to figure out where to put it, you really need to kind of think about it, because they have very long, deep tap roots and they don't like to be moved. This is what makes them so great and long-lived. So one of the newer introductions that I just think, as soon as I saw this, I fell in love with it. It is absolutely stunning. This is Golden Anniversary. And Golden Anniversary brings all of those fun colors to the garden that is not normally associated with a Baptisia. You get this bright chartreuse yellow foliage contrasted with those deep purple blooms. It is stunning. So Golden Anniversary Baptisia is going to have that vase-like habit, right? So it's going to be skinnier at the bottom, and as it comes up, it gets wider. It is going to be a spring bloomer like your Baptisias are. This is going to be hardy in zones 4 to 9 in full to part sun. Your Baptisias, like I said, because they have those really long, deep tap roots, it is drought tolerant and it is salt tolerant. So when I think salt tolerant, because I am a girl from the South, so I automatically think about like the beach, the ocean salt spray. But if you are in a colder zone and you deal with snow, and maybe you have salt to try to keep the ice and the snow off your sidewalks, your driveways, whatever it may be, then this will be beneficial for you as well. It is a native plant as well, because all Baptisias are native to North America. But what I love about Golden Anniversary, other than just the fact that it's a Baptisia, is the color on this plant. It is so striking. And yes, it does bloom in the spring, but for the rest of the season, you're going to have this great chartreuse color pop it up out of your garden, and that makes a beautiful backdrop for some of these other perennials that you can then plant in front of it. Your Baptisia is basically going to be about 3 feet tall, okay? So 3 feet tall, and then as it grows, it gets nice and wide. It can get into that 3-foot wide range as well up at the top, because your top is going to be wider than your base. So check out Golden Anniversary Baptisia. It may sound weird, but I have had people ask me, like, what is like your favorite perennial? And for years, I have said that this is probably, it really is like one of my top 5 favorite perennials. What is it? It's Ascot rainbow euphorbia. And I know that may sound a little bizarre, but I adore this plant. When we were coming up with the Creekside Champion line, I was like, this is definitely going in. I plant it all the time. And you go, well, you plant it all the time. Yeah, I do, because I add it to so many different spots in my garden. Ascot rainbow euphorbia is going to be a beautiful evergreen. It flowers. You don't buy it for the flowers, friends. You buy it for its habit, its texture, and its foliage color. It is absolutely stunning. Your Ascot rainbow is hardy in zones 5 to 9 in full to part sun. Now, if you're in zone 5, 6, even like a 7A, I definitely would say you want to go into that more of that sun, right? Where I am in North Carolina with that zone 8A, it absolutely can do full sun, but it absolutely can do more of a shadier garden, because I have played around with it in different areas. If you're going to put it in full sun in the zones 7B through 9, you're going to want to watch it in the heat of the summer to make sure that it gets plenty of water. But again, this is another perennial that is drought and salt tolerant, and it is deer and rabbit resistant. Now, I don't have deer, right? We have deer, but the deer just simply walk through. They leave our stuff alone. But I do have some pesky rabbits in my backyard, and I have Ascot rainbow planted throughout, both in containers and in the landscape. They never touch it. So euphorbia is a type of spurge, and when you cut or you chew on a euphorbia, it puts out this creamy, milky, sticky substance. So the critters, they don't like that. If you have sensitive skin, if you have to prune it, you're going to want to wear some gloves, because it is sticky, and you're going to want to clean your gardening shears, your Felcos afterwards, because it is sticky. But that's what makes it so deer and rabbit resistant. But the color and the texture of this plant is absolutely phenomenal. I have it in the driveway bed right outside of our kitchen window, in that new bed that we renovated, multiple of them. And y'all, we have gotten down to 13 degrees, winds, low 20s, and it is rocking out like a champion. And it is not going to be in full sun in that area. It gets morning sun, afternoon shade. I'm telling you what, y'all, Ascot rainbow euphorbia, I can't tell you enough how fantastic this plant is. I absolutely adore it. I think you're going to love it as well. And then last but not least, if you've been around me for any length of time, you know that I'm a huge fan of grasses. And perennial grasses are just, they are the absolute best, because they only get bigger and better every single year. They're low maintenance. You get movement in the garden. You get color and texture. And one of my absolute favorites that within the last, 5 years that's come out onto the market is the Prairie Winds Niagara Falls. Now, Niagara Falls is very unique in the fact of it's going to be very upright. It does not flop. And it is a blue grass. So it has that bluish undertones to it. Now it is green, but it has that blue hue to it. And your late summer is going to get some of those plumes, right? So those little white plumes up at the top. It is a stunning low maintenance grass that you're going to absolutely love. Niagara Falls is hardy in zones 4 to 9. It does need the full sun. If you're not going to get enough sun on it, then it's not going to grow quite as well and as vigorous for you, and you may not get that rich blue color in the grass. This can handle any kind of soil. So whether you have thick red clay like I do, or you're like some sweet customers of ours that have nothing but pure sand, Either one or anything in between, your Niagara Falls is going to do just fine. It is deer resistant, as all panicums are, and it is native to North America. The only kind of maintenance that you're going to be doing on your Niagara Falls is, like with all your perennial grasses, is at the end of winter going into spring, before it starts to put out new growth, you're going to give it a good haircut. I just tell people, do it a flat top, right? So just gather it up like a big ponytail and cut it as low as you possibly can to the ground. You want to do that early before any of that new growth comes up, so that you're not cutting off your new growth. And then every couple of years, you're going to want to divide it. So with your perennial grasses, you know that it's going to be time to divide your grasses when they start to look like they're dying out in the center, and that's just where they've gotten too big. So this would be coming out of winter, going into spring would be a great time to dig them up, divide them, and then replant them. So that is the maintenance on your grasses. But I'm telling you, Niagara Falls is an absolutely gorgeous bluegrass movement in your garden, and it gives you year-round interest. Yes, right now my Niagara Falls, as I look past the camera into the berm, they are upright. They're brown, but they provide movement and texture and a habitat for my little songbirds here in the winter, because they can kind of nestle down in there and get protection from the wind and any kind of predators that are flying around. So hopefully this list of these 10 perennials, now this is not an exhaustive list. I could sit here for hours and talk about perennials that give you interest throughout your garden throughout the entire year. I would love it if you would put in the comments perennials that you have found to be widely successful in your garden. And if you don't mind, tell us kind of like where you are. So if you're in Michigan, a zone 5 or 6, let us know that. If you're in Louisiana, a zone 9 or 10, let us know that, because it kind of helps sometimes, because even if you're a zone 8, like I am in North Carolina, a zone 8 in North Carolina and a zone 8 in California, plants react very differently. So tell us where you are, and tell us those perennials that you absolutely love to have in your garden, because iron sharpens iron, and this is a great community that we can share that information with you. All of these plants, they are available on gardeningwithcreekside.com. We are currently on pre-orders, my friends, because we are in wintertime, so we will not ship these to you until it is time and appropriate for your growing zone. But as always, we hope you have found this fun, informative, inspirational. If you have, we would love it if you would like and subscribe. That way you don't miss those 5 videos that we do each and every week. Y'all have a fantastic day. Stay warm, have fun, get out there in your garden if you can. We'll see you in the next video. Bye, friends.